7 miraculous revelations from Isaiah to transform your daily life with divine guidance and healing. In the heart of a quaint English village, nestled among rolling hills, an extraordinary turn of events was set to unfold. Through the whispers of a quiet chapel, Sarah felt an uncontainable fire igniting within her. She had stumbled upon the book of Isaiah, the words practically glowing off the page, bursting with healing promises that made her heart race with hope. "By his wounds, we are healed," echoed in her mind, each word like a vibrant tapestry weaving through her spirit. The air was thick with anticipation as she pondered the divine connections hinted at throughout the scripture. As she read on, the miraculous accounts poured forth. Isaiah spoke of valleys rising up and mountains being made low. It was as if the heavens were beckoning her to embrace the impossible. Her spirit danced at the thought of her ailing father, trapped in a mysterious illness that had stolen laughter from their home. Could prayer really heal the broken? Could faith truly move mountains? Sarah needed to know, yet, in the village, skepticism loomed like a dark cloud, casting shadows over hope. Every Sunday, as she sat among her family, their downcast eyes whispered doubt. Naysayers murmured of modern medicine and rationality, and fear crept into their hearts. Sarah stood firm, the embers of belief warming her soul, even as their whispers threatened to extinguish her flame. In a moment of divine spontaneity during a community prayer meeting, Sarah felt a heavy weight lift. She stood, trembling yet resolute, and spoke from the depths of her heart. "Brothers and sisters, let us not lose hope. The book of Isaiah holds a treasure trove of miracles. The blind shall see, the deaf shall hear." The palpable excitement sparked around the room, as if a light had flicked on in the dark. Members of the congregation leaned in, captivated by her fervor. Her conviction stirred something deep within their souls, unraveling threads of doubt in the most unexpected ways. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, but still, the air crackled with tension. The village braced itself as faith collided with the looming specter of science. Skepticism rose like a tide, pushing against the shores of hope. Sarah found herself not just battling her family's doubts but also trying to mend the fractured spirit of the community. Fear of the unknown threatened to drown their newfound faith, but in an extraordinary twist of fate, one fateful morning, as sunlight poured through the chapel's stained glass, her father rose from his sickbed, vitality rekindled in his eyes. The miracle sharp as a clarion call shattered the doubts weighing on their hearts. Conversations turned passionate, miracles interpreted, as villagers began to share their own testimonies of hope, but now, as the miracle spread, so too did questions about the influence of divine intervention versus earthly medicine. The village stood on the precipice of belief and skepticism. A decisive moment loomed. Would they forge ahead united in faith, or would despair snatch away their precious light? As they turned their eyes towards Sarah, waiting for her next step, the air buzzed thickly with anticipation. What revelations from Isaiah awaited them next? Sarah stood at the heart of her village, her spirit aflame with the power of faith ignited by Isaiah's words. She could feel the palpable energy around her, a current of hope woven into the very fabric of their lives. Each face, once marked by uncertainty, now shimmered with curiosity and anticipation. Would they dare to believe? The chatter of the villagers held the delicate balance of wonder and unrest. As conversations swirled, a voice cut through the murmur, questioning, yet longing to understand. How can we trust in what we cannot see? A young man named Thomas asked, his brow furrowed. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. The challenge hung before her, tempting her faith to falter. But Sarah felt the warmth of divine assurance wrap around her in that moment. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen, she replied, gently recalling the scripture that had buoyed her through her father's illness. Her voice rose above the tide of doubt. Isaiah didn't just offer us promises, he laid out God's love for us, his desire to wrap us in healing and hope. The sunlight filtered through the stained glass, casting colorful rays that danced upon their faces. In that ephemeral moment, a vision sparked in Sarah's heart. She thought of her father, recalling the glimmer of joy that sparkled in his eyes now. "Look at him. Look at what God has done," she exclaimed, pointing toward the man who had once languished in shadows, now shaking hands and sharing laughter with those who had often doubted. An elderly woman, Mrs. Elsbeth, approached her, a glint of belief shining in her own eyes. "I was once afraid of losing my faith to worldly wisdom," she confessed, her voice trembling with emotion. "But your father's recovery, perhaps it serves as a sign, a turning point, for so many of us." In the days that followed, gatherings transformed. They began to pray with intention, their hesitations fading like mist before the rising sun. The community adopted Sarah's spirit, embracing the very miracles from the book of Isaiah that had so captivated her. The stubborn thorns of skepticism softened as each account of healing brought life back to their hearts. As the village moved together, they held vigils and prayer sessions that echoed into the night, their voices mingling in harmonic triumph. The messages of hope spread further than they could have imagined, drifting like seeds carried on the wind. Families began to recount their stories of healing, of small miracles that blossomed in mundane routines, each testimony adding to the strengthening collective faith. But even amid the awakening, doubt still lingered. Some villagers dared to challenge Sarah with colder questions, troublesome worries about faith's validity against the backdrop of medicine. "Can we just pray, and everything will be made well?" they asked, their voices laced with concern. Sarah felt the weight of their uncertainty. "Perhaps it isn't merely about choosing one over the other," she responded slowly. "In fact, isn't it possible that God works through both?" Her heart was pounding, hoping to unravel some of lingering doubt. Perhaps divine guidance floods the body with strength, whether it comes from above or through hands skilled in medicine. The village fell into contemplative silence, the murmurs fading as they absorbed her words. She could see the sparks of understanding flicker within their eyes. Yet, in the twilight of their progress, Sarah sensed something impending. The air buzzed with a heavier anticipation, hinting at events beyond the horizon of their small village. What next revelation awaited them from Isaiah? Would their faith endure the trials to come, and what divine signs would take shape? They felt poised on the brink of great transformation, a turning point into the unknown. The next chapter loomed, promising deeper trials and even greater miracles. What awaited them as they leaned into faith? With the dawn of a new day, Sarah gathered the villagers once more. The sun rose, scattering golden light across the fields, where a new day seemed to whisper possibilities. Their collective faith created a tapestry of vibrant energy, stretching and intertwining among them. Yet beneath that rich surface, Sarah could sense a growing tension. Something was about to shift. As they settled around her in a circle, the air thick with expectation, Sarah raised her arms. "Today, we speak of visions and revelations. God is ready to guide us, to awaken and empower." But Thomas, still wrestling with his uncertainties, looked at her with cautious eyes. "And what if we are led astray? How do we know these visions are truly from him?" His question pierced through the optimism, leaving a stark silence in its wake. She could feel the weight of the doubt he voiced, but she also sensed hope bubbling beneath it. "Faith is a journey," she reminded them gently. "Sometimes the paths twist and turn, and we must learn to discern the voice of God from the noise around us." Mrs. Elsbeth chimed in, her voice rich with experience. "When I was lost, I learned that God often speaks in the softest whispers, in the moments of gentle stillness. We must listen with our hearts, not just our ears." Sarah smiled at the wisdom shared among them like a tender embrace. "Let us be brave. Let us share our visions, our dreams, no matter how wild they seem. Together, we can seek understanding." As they began to share their thoughts, the atmosphere transformed. A young girl named Lydia spoke of a night in her dream where she had seen bright, healing lights surrounding her grandmother. I think it meant she would recover, she beamed, eyes full of excitement. The group erupted in murmurs of encouragement. Then, another villager described witnessing an unexplainable wellspring of joy during prayer, where laughter lifted burdens and softened hearts. It felt like this was what Isaiah meant, he said. A promise of joy amidst sorrow. With every testimony, Sarah felt the pulse of their shared faith quicken. Something tangible shifted, a connection blossomed. Divine sparks ignited hope in the hearts of the community. And yet, she felt a looming shadow of doubt. I can feel the warmth of the Spirit among us, she affirmed. But let us not shy away from the doubts. They can be as valuable as our hope. They fuel the fire of faith as we seek answers together. The tension that had been palpable now danced in the air like fireflies, flickering with promise and veiled worry. They turned their attention to the rolling hills encircling their village, each rise an untapped well of potential, waiting to be explored. In that very moment, a stirring wind swirled through them, rustling leaves and lifting spirits. It felt as if the air conspired with the divine. What if God is preparing us for something extraordinary? Sarah murmured, her heart racing. What if this is just the beginning? The villagers nodded, reverence washing over them, as they leaned closer to the edge of the words yet unspoken. What happens next? Came the voice of an older man, looking as though he bore the weight of years filled with waiting. A brief pause hung in the air, heavy with possibility. Sarah felt it pulse through her veins, alive and electric. I believe, she began, heart pounding with anticipation, that God's greatest miracles are still to come. Just like Isaiah foretold, we are at the dawn of our testament. But what awaited them as they ventured deeper into this unknown journey? Would they find the resilience to weather the coming storms? Or would they be caught unprepared as mysteries unfolded? Their prayers had begun a ripple, and now they stood on the brink of something far greater than any of them had ever imagined. With faith gently interwoven with doubt, the question loomed large: what divine revelations awaited them next? As the wind gently whispered through the trees, it carried with it a promise of revelations yet to unfold. The villagers sat in rapt attention, their hearts attuned to Sarah's words, anchoring them amidst the shifting tides of doubt and hope. God is always at work. We may not see it yet, but like seeds buried in the ground, our faith is growing, waiting for the light to break through, she said, her voice steady and soothing. The words settled over the group gently. Each villager held on to their personal stories, their struggles mingling with renewed resolve. Thomas, still clutching his uncertainty, leaned forward, eyes searching Sarah's for clarity. But how can we prepare for what lies ahead? He asked, vulnerability lacing his tone. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the question. Preparation comes through connection. Through prayer and shared experiences, we step into God's plans. When we align ourselves with His will, we become instruments, ready to act as He leads. As the group absorbed her words, Mrs. Elsbeth spoke once more, her voice a warm caress. Remember the story of Elijah and the widow? It was when she stepped out in faith that God multiplied her oil. Several villagers nodded in recognition, seeing how steps of faith could lead to miraculous outcomes. Sarah's heart resonated with their yearning for healing and guidance. What if our faith, coupled with our bold prayers, leads us to our own miracles? She proposed, her eyes sparkling with inspiration. At that moment, a sudden stillness descended. The sound of distant rustling leaves created a space of tranquility. As if on cue, Lydia quietly shared, I had another dream. There were people from other villages coming to us, asking for help and healing. The revelation sent ripples through the crowd. An unexpected sense of collective purpose began to blossom, as hope transformed into active engagement. Sarah felt it too, a divine charge coursing through the air, urging them toward unity and action. What if our community becomes a beacon? She asked, eyes wide with possibility. A place where others see miracles and want to know the God we serve, she emphasized, the words pouring like an offering from her heart. Excitement danced among them, the villagers began to speak at once, dreams unfolding like petals under the sun. There were visions of shared meals, prayers offered for the sick, and hands extended towards those in need. Sarah felt the collective energy surge, a powerful swell of devotion and readiness, yet, in the midst of the growing fervor, a lingering shadow brushed against her thoughts. Fear and doubt still lingered like uninvited guests, refusing to leave, and she marveled at the delicate balance of faith. Even as we stepped forward, she reminded them gently, we must not forget the challenges we might face. Just as Isaiah said, we can expect valleys of despair, but also valleys of glory when we keep our eyes on Him. With that, the atmosphere shifted again, threads of seriousness interwoven with joy. Villagers exchanged solemn yet hopeful glances. Let us pray to find the strength. Someone called out. And just like that, a chorus of voices began to rise, prayers intertwining like a tapestry woven from heartfelt supplications. They prayed for clarity of purpose, for courage to follow wherever God would lead them. Each word, a flame igniting their path ahead. Sarah felt the presence of the Holy Spirit wrap around them, enveloping their community in warmth and assurance, and as the sun continued its upward climb, painting the sky with fiery hues, the villagers began to sense something monumental was on the horizon. What comes after this faith-filled day? She pondered quietly, turning the thought over in her heart. What if we are about to witness something extraordinary? In that sacred space, the villagers felt the anticipation mingle with a sense of divine urgency. Their hearts were open, ready to embrace whatever God had in store. But would they be prepared for the revelations that were soon to unfold? Would the echoes of their faith resonate beyond their village, touching lives yet unseen? With hope laced with curiosity, Sarah now stood at the precipice of the unknown, ready to step forward into the unfolding mystery of God's will. In the days that followed, the village was alive with a new spirit. Mornings began with fervent prayers, voices lifting to the heavens as the sun spilled golden rays across the fields. Each villager knew that they had crossed into a holy expectation. Sarah felt an electric charge in the air, every moment tinged with possibility. She wandered through the village, witnessing sparks of hope among her neighbors' children playing with zest, elders sharing laughter, and the aroma of freshly baked bread wafting through open doors. These moments of joy seemed like whispers from heaven, affirming their collective journey towards something greater. One afternoon, Sarah gathered a small group beneath the grand oak at the center of the village. Let us share our dreams, our visions. Let us creatively explore how we can act on the call we feel pressing in our hearts, she urged, her eyes gleaming with encouragement. As they sat in a circle, voices flowed freely, each word weaving a deeper bond between them. Lydia shared how she envisioned a healing service, an event that would invite everyone from surrounding areas to come and experience the power of community prayer. What if we set aside a day dedicated to praying for the sick? Not just in our village, but beyond, she said, her voice filled with conviction. That a hush fell over the group, and then excitement burst forth. Thomas spoke up, we could gather resources to help those in need, create care packages filled with food and warmth for families struggling. Others chimed in, ideas overlapping like rising gusts of wind. An open-air worship night, a community garden to share fresh produce, a series of intercessory prayers for surrounding areas. Each suggestion carried the weight of faith, the hope of transformation. With their plans swelling, a sense of urgency set in. They began to see themselves not merely as villagers, but as a collective force of divine love. As dusk fell, Sarah felt a strange pull in her spirit. She gazed up at the deepening sky, feeling a whisper dance around her heart. How do we know when we are truly ready? She murmured to herself, contemplating the magnitude of their undertaking. That night, unable to sleep, she ventured outside. The stars twinkled above, casting gentle light upon her path. She sought solace in silence, feeling the cool earth beneath her feet. Suddenly, a sudden rustle caught her attention, a shadow moving just beyond the tree line. Heart thudding, she stepped closer, drawn by instinct. There, illuminated by the moon's glow, stood an unfamiliar man. His face bore a kind expression, yet his presence radiated an urgency that made Sarah's heart race. Do not be afraid, the man said softly. I have come to guide you, to speak of the signs that are unfolding. With those words, the world around Sarah faded into a backdrop, and she felt a profound connection surging, as if their hearts beat in rhythm. "What signs?" she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Was this the revelation she had sensed was approaching, the extraordinary moment where faith would collide with the divine? The man raised his hand, and visions of what was to come streamed into Sarah's mind: miracles, healing, lives transformed through devotion. Her spirit swelled with hope and dread in equal measure. "Will we be ready?" she thought anxiously. "You will be," he replied, his voice cutting through her uncertainty. "Trust in the unfolding, and the heavens will open." And just as swiftly as he had appeared, he vanished, leaving behind a stillness filled with wonder. Will the villagers embrace this divine guidance? What journey waits on the horizon, and how will their faith manifest in ways beyond their dreams? With her heart pounding, Sarah felt the tapestry of God's plans weave ever tighter around them, drawing them into a destiny beyond their wildest imaginations. Days passed, yet the air held on to its electric current. Each morning, the village awakened with a collective resolve, prayers rising like the smoke from a gentle fire. Sarah felt a deep flicker of hope in her chest, a divine promise illuminating their path forward. Word spread about Lydia's vision for the healing service, igniting the spirits of many. Families began lending their hands to prepare for the event, gathering supplies and sharing stories of ailments that needed healing. Every corner of the village buzzed with excitement and determination. One evening, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, Sarah led a devotional meeting by the grand oak. They gathered in a circle, hands clasped together, their faces aglow with faith. Sarah spoke, her heart overflowing. "Tonight, let us seek God's guidance for our purpose. Let us invite His presence into our plans, for He is with us as we step into the unknown." The villagers murmured in agreement, their hearts aligned in prayer. Each voice rose, intertwining in a chorus of expectancy. As the last prayer faded into the air, Sarah felt a gentle breeze wrap around them, like a warm embrace from heaven itself. Laughter and unity filled the space, affirming their bond as a family forged in faith. Days melted into nights, and preparations became a rhythm of life. At last, the day of the healing service arrived, drenched in an atmosphere thick with anticipation. Villagers adorned the square with flowers, vibrant colors unfurling like a canvas painted by the Creator's hand. A humble stage stood at the front, adorned with wildflowers and candles flickering softly, casting a warm glow on their aspirations. As the sun began to rise, surrounding fields ignited with golden hues. Sarah stood at the forefront, heart racing. "Today marks a new beginning," she spoke, gathering everyone's gaze. "This is our moment to be vessels of His love, to reflect His light into the lives of others." The villagers listened intently, their eyes glistening with determination. They formed small groups, eagerly inviting passers-by to join them, embracing the wider community with open arms. Sarah felt the pulse of unity in their beating hearts, a force far more powerful than any single individual. As the first families arrived, smiles lit up the faces of the villagers. The energy was contagious, love spilling over in waves of laughter and joy. Some shared testimonies of healing, others poured out their stories, while tears of gratitude mingled with the laughter. With each embrace shared, Sarah sensed the sacred presence surrounding them all, a reminder of the divine purpose that had woven them together, yet in the back of her mind lingered that divine encounter with the mysterious man, his words echoing in her heart. Trust in the unfolding. With each passing moment, she wondered how far their faith could stretch. As dusk began to settle, the gathering finally reached its peak. Villagers stood in a circle, holding hands as the last rays of sunlight faded. They lifted their voices in unison, calling upon heaven for darkened hearts to be healed, for bodies broken to be restored. A hush fell over the gathering as they felt a tangible presence envelop them, a miracle in the making. Then a gasp rippled through the crowd, and eyes turned to a woman, her arms raised in prayer. Tears streamed down her cheeks, her spirit evidently stirred. Sarah leaned closer, heart pounding. What was happening? The air thickened with anticipation now, as they stood on the brink of a miraculous revelation. What awaited them beyond this moment? What miraculous transformation was about to unfold before their very eyes? In the depths of their hearts, the villagers trembled in excited anticipation of what God had in store. Would they witness the unimaginable? In the stillness of the moment, the air pulsated with an unseen energy, and Sarah felt as if time itself had paused, holding its breath. The woman before them, lost in worship, seemed almost ethereal. With tears cascading down her cheeks, she embodied the longing of all present, an urgent plea for divine intervention. Voices lowered to whispers, yet faith surged high. The villagers exchanged nervous glances, eyes wide with wonder. What was happening? The atmosphere around them felt charged, alive with the presence of something far greater than themselves. Is it her? Someone murmured, almost afraid to breathe. Is she the one? But then, a voice, strong and steady, rose above the murmuring crowd. It belonged to Lydia, who stepped forward, her eyes bright with inspiration. Watch and believe. She called, her confidence ringing clear. The Lord's hand is moving among us. The villagers leaned closer, hearts beating in unison, drawn by the magnetism of faith. Each flickering candle illuminated their faces, reflecting both the fears and hopes that dwelled within them. They stood ready to witness the unfolding miracle, a testament to the power of collective prayer. With trembling hands, the woman opened her eyes as if reawakening from a long slumber. I was lost, she breathed, her voice reverberating with emotion. But today, I feel found. A light shone from her, brighter than the candles that flickered into shadows at their feet, and it kindled the hearts of those who watched. Just then, tears of joy glimmered like morning dew upon the grass, as others began to share their own encounters. I felt it too. A young man exclaimed, gripping his mother's hand. My pain, it's gone. A gasp swept through the gathering, rousing the dormant dreams and untouched hopes in each spirit. The circle moved closer, a living tapestry of faith and expectation. One by one, testimonies began to spill forth, stories woven together by threads of healing and divine touch. God is here. He is alive in our midst. Sarah found herself shouting, flooded with an inexplicable joy. Her spirit soared high as her voice rang out like a bell, a call of victory amid the unfolding miracle. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. They began to raise their hands upward, in awe, as if to reach into the heavens. Many closed their eyes, surrendering fully to the moment, embracing the overwhelming sense of belonging. They were not merely witnesses, they were participants in a sacred act of divine grace. Outside, the night sky began to adorn itself with stars, their light shimmering closely in reflection of the hope igniting within the villagers' hearts. How magnificent was the presence enveloping them, binding them together in a tapestry of faith and shared experience. As the night stretched on, Sarah felt the currents of joy deepen, a tapestry woven not just with threads of healing but also with commitment. They were ready to be vessels of this love, the light entrusted to them. Abruptly, the air shifted again, thickening with expectancy. Sarah's heart raced at the thought, would they dare to ask for even more? She glanced around, meeting the gaze of Lydia, who seemed to know the question simmering just below the surface. Together, they raised their voices once again, this time with fervent petitions for those beyond their gathering, the broken-hearted, the sick, the lost. Their faith was a bridge to the divine, reaching beyond their village, ready to encompass the world. As the last echoes of prayer faded, there came a moment of silence. It was here, in this quiet, that Sarah felt a whisper rise from within her, a soft urging to remember the mysterious man's words. What awaited them just beyond the veil of their understanding? What would the next chapter of this divine story unravel before them? And in that silence, they all awaited the dawn. The dawn broke softly over the village, bathing everything in a warm golden light. The air felt fresh, filled with promise as the villagers stirred awake, still touched by the night's divine encounter. Sarah blinked against the brightening sky, the events of the previous evening swirling in her mind like leaves caught in the wind. It was as if each heartbeat pulsed with a renewed sense of purpose. Lydia was the first to rise, her voice ringing clear among the morning stillness. Let us gather again. She beckoned. The villagers, still entranced by the ethereal glow that had graced their hearts, began to swell around her once more, eager to hold on to that palpable spirit. News of the miracle had already begun to weave its way through the village. As they came together, each face seemed alight with excitement, almost as if they bore a small piece of that celestial glow. Children clutched the hands of their parents, elderly men and women hobbled closer, and teens found their laughter ringing out like a playful song among the gathering. "We must share what we received," Sarah urged, her heart tugging strongly. "Let today be an extension of our prayers. We felt his presence, let us not let fear silence our voices." As she spoke, she marveled at how quickly the hearts of the village united under one powerful desire to spread this hope further, and so, they began to pray aloud, their words filling the morning air. "Heal the sick. Comfort the lost. Restore joy to the broken." Each plea amplified the belief in miracles, a chorus rising like smoke from sacred incense. The ground beneath their feet trembled slightly, echoing their faith, igniting embers of hope that had lain dormant. That I in the warm embrace of daylight, each miracle spoken felt heavier, as if the gathered were not merely talking but rather stirring the very essence of the universe. Sarah and Lydia moved amongst the villagers, asking them to share all the joys, the healings, and transformations they experienced. Each tale was a thread, woven into a greater tapestry of divine action. That a woman with frail shoulders stood up to share her story of recovery. "I was unwell for so long," she spoke, her voice soft but steady. "But after the prayers last night, I felt God's healing come over me. I've walked a mile today for the first time in years." Gasps of awe rippled through the crowd, stoking the flames of hope. As the testimonies poured forth, it became evident that something grand was unfolding. Each story, every note of gratitude, healing, or restoration brought them closer together. It unified not just the villagers but their faith. It was a shared miracle. Amidst the laughter and tears, a hush fell over the gathering once more. Sarah felt it, a swirling presence enveloping them tighter. With hearts open, they waited for the Spirit to speak. The moment hung like a tender fruit, just ready to be plucked. I sensed Lydia paused, her eyes reflecting deep pools of understanding. "There is more to this story. God is asking us to step out in faith, to go beyond what we have known." Her words pierced through their collective stillness, awakening something profound within each heart. But just what lay beyond that beckoning? What more did God wish to unveil? The air brimmed with questions, nuances that shimmered in the light. The villagers exchanged glances, filled with wonderment, as they contemplated the invitation from the divine. The morning unfolded not just as a new day but as a threshold. Beyond it lay an adventure marked by divine guidance and deep healing, a calling to venture into the unknown. Would they be brave enough to answer? As they stood hand in hand, hearts aligned and spirits soaring, a new journey awaited. The question lingered in the air: when and how would they step into the next revelation? The sun climbed steadily, spreading its rays across the village like a gentle embrace. The villagers, still buzzing with excitement, felt the weight of Lydia's words hang in the air. It was a call to action, a nudge to leave behind the familiar and step into the unknown with faith. Sarah tightened her grip on Lydia's hand, her heart racing. "What if this is our moment?" she whispered, feeling the thrill of potential swirl around them. "What if God is about to show us a path we never imagined?" The murmurs of agreement echoed among the villagers. They craved guidance, like parched land yearning for rain. With hope alive in their hearts, they began discussing how they could reach beyond their village. What about the nearby towns? A young man named David suggested, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "We could share our testimonies of hope there." "Yes." Another voice chimed in. "We could gather everyone for a day of prayer and healing. Imagine what God can do when we come together." Their enthusiasm spread like wildfire. The idea took root, growing stronger with each passing moment. They envisioned a festival of faith, where they could testify, share, and uplift one another. Memories of the previous night's divine encounter filled their minds, fueling their passion with a sense of urgency. As discussions swirled, a gentle breeze danced through the crowd, rustling the leaves as if the Spirit itself breathed encouragement into their hearts. In that moment, Sarah felt a wave of determination wash over her. She rose to her feet, her voice clear and hopeful. Let us not simply talk about it. Let us put into action what we've received. She proclaimed. We will plan our day of prayer and healing. We will cast our nets out, bringing in those who desperately need hope. Cheers erupted, laced with laughter and tears of joy. Their hearts thrummed with the electricity of purpose. Community leaders stepped forward, each ready to lend their time and talents. Mothers offered to cook for the gathering, youths volunteered for setup, and wise elders prepared to share their knowledge and prayers. Days passed swiftly as the villagers banded together, fueled by their newfound mission. Each morning unfolded like petals of a flower, revealing fresh inspiration. Sarah watched as the village transformed, homes filled with laughter, energy pulsing through their shared purpose, and a divine excitement that hung in the air. Yet, amid the joy, deeper questions stirred quietly in her heart. Was this truly what God wanted? What if they faced challenges, opposition, or disappointment? Would they remain steadfast in their faith, even when clouds loomed overhead? As the festival day approached, uncertainty crept gently into the corners of her mind. She pondered, was she ready for what lay ahead? Could they truly embody the divine spirit they had experienced? When the long-awaited day finally dawned, the village seemed to hold its breath. Vibrant decorations adorned the gathering place, and laughter mingled with prayers weaving through the excitement. But as Sarah looked around at the flurry of joyful faces, she caught a glimpse of something more, a vision of healing that echoed within her soul, still waiting to be revealed. What wondrous miracles awaited them as they stepped out into the world, obedient and hopeful. The sun rose higher, illuminating the path ahead, but mystery and anticipation hung in the air. Would they see the fruit of their faith, or was there more to the divine plan than they could fathom? And then, a distant sound echoed, a whisper of what was to come. With the sun weaving golden threads through the village, a hum of anticipation enveloped the gathered crowd. The festival of faith had arrived, and the excitement was palpable. Sarah stood at the forefront, her heart racing with expectation. Today was not just about a gathering, it was a moment when dreams and prayers coalesced into action. Let this day be a testament to the miracles we've borne witness to. She proclaimed, her voice like a clear bell in the morning air. The villagers cheered, their spirits soaring as they began to scatter, preparing for the day's events. Booths lined the main square, each one brimming with tales of healing and hope. Families set up tables to share baked goods, while others organized prayer circles, eager to welcome anyone who sought solace. Sarah watched as Lydia, bursting with energy, rallied children to sing joyful songs, filling the atmosphere with cheerful melodies. As the sun climbed higher, visitors from neighboring towns trickled in, drawn to the vibrant sounds of worship and laughter. Curiosity danced in their eyes as they wandered through stalls and listened to stories of miraculous transformations. Sarah felt the collective energy each encounter fueled their mission, weaving an unbreakable thread of faith that bound them all together. But as people began to gather for the opening prayer, shadows of doubt crept into her heart. What if the healings they had prayed for didn't come to pass? What if the skeptics cast doubts on their plans? The anxious thoughts danced at the edge of her consciousness, but she took a deep breath, recalling the words of Isaiah, "Fear not, for I am with you." She closed her eyes, centering her spirit. Lord, guide us today. Let your will be done, she whispered into the soft breeze. When the time finally came, Sarah stepped onto the stage, her heart pounding with both fear and faith. The villagers assembled before her, faces alight with eagerness and hope. She gazed across the crowd, spotting familiar faces glowing with expectancy, and she felt the warmth of God's love envelop her. Welcome, friends. Today, we gather not for ourselves but to shine a light for those who walk in darkness. Her voice echoed with passion, igniting the crowd. Let us pray for healing, unity, and the manifestation of God's promises. As they all bowed their heads, Sarah's spirit soared higher, filled with the electricity of collective faith. Heavenly Father, we come to you as one family, hungry for your touch. We ask for miracles, for joy to dance through the lives present here today. The moment was thick with reverence, and as each prayer rose, Sarah felt the veil between heaven and earth grow thin. Around her, villagers visibly transformed, their eyes sparkled with renewed hope, and hearts pulsed with anticipation. That I and the stillness afterward, an elderly man stood slowly, trembling but resolved. I came today with burdens too heavy to carry, he spoke, his voice quaking with emotion. But I felt something urging in my heart. I believe that through our prayers, I can finally be free. Affirmations rippled through the crowd, yes. We believe. They declared, their voices harmonizing like a sweet song. Sarah caught Lydia's gaze. Both young women understood the significance of this moment. It was as if the heavens opened, bathing them in a warm glow of divine encouragement. As they began to share their stories of healing, testimonies poured forth like cascading streams. A woman with a persistent ailment expressed joy at feeling a sudden warmth flood through her, while mothers celebrated their children's newfound laughter and health. Each word spun around them, embracing the sacred air, transcending doubt, but then came a voice heavy with uncertainty. A figure stood outside the gathered circle, casting a long shadow. What are your prayers worth if the world demands signs? A man challenged, skepticism lacing his tone. Even in your dreams, can healing truly happen? A tense silence followed, but Sarah felt a compelling strength rise within her. It is in our struggles that miracles are born, she replied firmly, her heart steady with conviction. Faith does not ignore doubt, it embraces it. We share our stories, knowing they can inspire others to believe. Her words ignited a fire within the believers, and the air thickened with resolve. The villagers rallied around this man, their voices intertwining. What if, in our collective faith, we create a space for miracles? And then, it happened. A wave of recognition flowed through the crowd. The spirit of the miraculous swept them into a divine unity, hearts pounding in symphonic rhythm. Sarah could feel the palpable tension lift, replaced by a shared exhilaration. Bring forth your doubts and your burdens. Let us pray together, as one, Sarah declared, her voice booming with purpose. The villagers formed a circle, hands clasped tightly as they embraced the sacred moment, each prayer lifted like sweet incense to the heavens, mingling their desires with unwavering faith. The energy crackled in the air, a breathtaking mingling of love and divine presence. Then, something shifted. A hush fell upon them as flowers began to bloom around the gathering, vibrant petals unfurling under the warmth of the sun. Gasps arose, awestruck faces turning towards the blossoming beauty. Look! God is at work! Lydia cried, tears of joy streaming down her face. The villagers stared in wonder, a miraculous confirmation that the divine was moving among them. Within that pulsating moment, Sarah closed her eyes and grasped the significance of what had unfolded. This was the victory of faith over doubt, the manifestation of God's love on earth. As night descended and stars blanketed the sky, they gathered together once more, emboldened and transformed. They were not just a village, they were living testimonies of all that faith could accomplish when united. Let us not end this day in silence, Sarah urged. Let our stories spread like wildfire. For this is only the beginning. Our faith journey continues with promises waiting for us at every turn. With hearts emboldened and faith aflame, they stood united, their spirits intertwining like woven branches under the endless sky. The village watched together, embraced by divine truth, ready to step into the next chapter that God had waiting for them. Now, dear friends, we too must carry this spirit into our lives. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive faith stories that will inspire your heart. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and spread this light into the world. Comment below with your reactions and testimonies about this miraculous ending. Let your voice be heard. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation today. Together, let us illuminate the world.